In this video, we will introduce the meaning of past consideration. To explain, we will begin by discussing consideration, which is necessary for forming a contract, and then compare it to past consideration, which is not considered consideration at all and is insufficient to form a contract. Contracts in the United States require consideration. To enforce a promise in a contract, there must be something of value in return. So if Darren promises to sell a car, there must be consideration to enforce this promise as part of a contract. And we'll say Mike here promises in return to pay $20,000. So now the promise to sell the car is supported by a return promise, and we have a contract. You'll see consideration referred to as the price of a promise, or as a bargained for exchange, because as in our example, the promise of $20,000 was the cost of the promise to sell the car. Another way to think of this is that one party's consideration induces the counterparty's promise. The promise to buy the car induced the promise to sell the car, or vice versa. And because there are enforceable promises supported by consideration, if Darren breaches the contract, Mike can sue him because Darren broke a legally enforceable promise. But let's change our story, and we'll say Darren has lost his beloved dog. Mike happens to find the dog and happily returns it to Darren. And now Darren promises to give Mike his car. But months later, Mike is still waiting, and there's no car. But now, if Mike tries to sue, a court will likely say there was no contract to give the car. Why? Because the promise to give the car came after Mike found the dog. Finding the dog was past consideration because Mike did not find the dog as part of a bargained for exchange. But change the story again, and let's say we have a promise to pay $30,000 for a car and a return promise to sell the car for $30,000. Now we have a promise supported by consideration. Likewise, a promise to pay a dog trainer that induces a return promise by the trainer to train the dog would be consideration and would create an enforceable contract. To summarize, an enforceable contract requires consideration, sometimes called a bargain for exchange or the price of a promise. Consideration requires one party to give something of value to the counterparty or to incur some sort of detriment that induces a promise from the counterparty. But something of value that was already given in the past and which was not given to induce a promise from the counterparty is past consideration and is usually not considered consideration at all. Past consideration does not create an enforceable contract.